Hi guys, I'm going to teach you guys how to rationalize the denominator by showing you 4 different examples. So if you looked over the presentation, watched my video, you have the notes, so hopefully you remember that we want to rationalize the denominator because we don't want any square roots in that denominator. So we need to get that out. By doing that, all we do is simply multiply by 1. Now what I mean by that is you're going to multiply by whatever square root is in the denominator to both the numerator and denominator of that first one. Remember, anything that is over the same amount is just multiplying by 1. So the square root of 8 over the square root of 8 is 1. So we're going to go ahead and use that property I can never say, and we're going to just multiply like we multiply fractions, numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So we're going to go ahead and look at the top here. We have 1 times the square root of 8. That just is the square root of 8. And on the bottom, we know here, according to the multiplicative property of square roots, we know it's 8 times 8, and then we're going to square root that. So really this bottom here becomes the square root of 64. Now we're not officially done with this problem because we still have a square root in the denominator. So to clean this up, we know the square root of 64 can be simplified to just 8, and then the numerator stays the same. So our first example is the square root of 8 over 8. All right, then let's take a look at our second example. I added a little thing, something different here in this one, and we'll talk about it. So again, I have a square root of 2 in the denominator, and we can't have that. So I am going to take and multiply whatever square root is in the denominator, and I'm going to multiply it by both my top and bottom there. So I'm multiplying the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. So as you can see, that is really just multiplying by 1. Again, you're just going to multiply straight across like we multiply fractions. And you're going to say 6 times the square root of 2 is really just 6 square roots of 2. And then over here, we have 3 square roots of 2 times the square root of 2. This is where it gets a little bit tricky here, but we still use that property I can't say. And we know the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is really just the square root of 4. So to simplify here, I have 3 square roots of 4. Now, nope, I am not done. This is very involved, and I've got a lot going on here. So the first thing I'm going to look at here is I know what the square root of 4 is. The square root of 4 is just 2. So I know this here just becomes the 2. And then here this is being multiplied, so you just end up multiplying 3 times 2. So the bottom all ended up being with a 6. The top didn't get simplified anymore because that's as simple as it gets. And we have 6 square roots of 2. Now most of you would think we are done with this problem, but we're not. This problem has one tiny thing that can be simplified even more. So we look at this and we kind of ignore where that square root of 2 is. And we say, okay, well, do we know 6 over 6? I can simplify that. And that really just simplifies to 1. So my final answer, so all of this here simplifies to 1. So my final answer is just 1 times the square root of 2. We know that's our invisible one, so you really don't have to have it. So you can really just have your answer as the square root of 2. All right, I have a couple more problems here. So let's take a look. Sorry if I'm shaken. So I have 2 more problems. If you want to pause the video, this would be a good time. So the first one, we have 18 over the square root of 8. So I'm looking at that here. And again, it's kind of similar to the very first problem. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to multiply by the square root of 8 on both top and bottom. So hopefully this is kind of clearing it up a little bit. These equal the square root of 64 because we know it's 8 times 8. And that's how we get that. And then this top here, the numerator is 18 times the square root of 8. Now we can't simplify that anymore right now. So continue to simplify until you can't simplify anymore. The square root of 64 is just 8. And we have 18 over the square root of 8. Now we are not officially done. Why are we not officially done? Oh, because I see something here that I can simplify. 18 and 8 is kind of the same thing if you kind of think of it like a fraction, where we want to simplify what number goes into both 18 and 8. 2 does. 4 goes into 8, but not 18. So I think 2 is about the last one. So we are going to, not equal to, we're going to divide a 2 out by both. So 18 divided by 2 is 9. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So all I'm doing is really simplifying a fraction. And then don't forget, we're going to bring back our square root to join where it left off. So your final answer is 9 square roots of 8 over 4. Hopefully that didn't go too bad. And then we have one last problem where we have a square root in both the numerator and denominator. So again, continue to treat it as if you're just trying to get that square root out of the denominator. So we're going to multiply it by 1, which is the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. When we multiply that straight across, like we have been doing, this here, 2 times 2 is just that 4. So that bottom we have that square root of 4. Now this is where it's slightly different than what we've done. You still just take 12 times 2, same thing you did down on the denominator, and you get the square root of 24. Let's continue to simplify this. I know the bottom's just 2. I know square root, sorry about that, the square root of 4 is just 2. So that's why that turns out here. Now the square root of 24, that doesn't really have a perfect square, but this is where we bring back how we simplify a radical. So in order to do this, and I know some of you are going to groan and whine at me, but you need to find factors of 24. So you have 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, and I'm going to stick with the 4 times 6 because I know something about when I take, and I'm using that multiplicative property, I think I'm saying it right, I know the square root of 4 is actually just 2. The square root of 6 can't be simplified anymore because the only thing that you can get for 6 is 3 times 2, and that won't be simplified. So really, square root of 4 is just 2. This is as simple as it's going to get, so we have 2 times the square root of 6. Guess what? We just simplified the square root of 24. I know some of this is coming back. Now I'm hoping a lot of you out there can see what our last step is to get our final answer is just the square root of 6. So that's that 2 over 2. We're going to kind of look at that and simplify it like it's a fraction. Well, this is it for rationalizing the denominator. I hope those made a lot more sense. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Thanks. Bye.